On November 24, 1971, an ordinary-looking man in a suit walked into Portland International Airport, bought a one-way ticket to Seattle, and casually boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305. His name was Dan Cooper, or at least, that's what the ticket said. And if this sounds like the start of a classic caper film, it's because it basically was, except with way less George Clooney and way more polyester. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, or worse, don't spend your free time binge-watching true crime documentaries, let me introduce you to one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of all time. D.B. Cooper, the man, the myth, the guy who single-handedly made air travel slightly more stressful for the rest of us. But before we dive into the juicy details, let's set the scene. It was the early 70s, a time when the fashion was questionable, the hair was big, and, shockingly, airport security was as tight as a pair of bell-bottoms. You could practically stroll onto a plane with a suitcase full of dynamite and a smile. And in case you're wondering, no, that's not a suggestion, just an observation. So, Mr. Cooper, or as the FBI later dubbed him, D.B. Cooper, because someone somewhere had a typo, decided to take full advantage of this lack of security. After takeoff, he passed a note to the flight attendant. Now, here's where things get interesting. The note wasn't a love confession, a complaint about the lack of legroom, or even a joke about peanuts. No, it was something far more traditional for the time, a threat to blow up the plane. Picture this. Cooper calmly tells the flight attendant that he's got a bomb in his briefcase. And no, this wasn't one of those fake, I want attention, bombs. He even showed her what appeared to be a collection of wires, red sticks, and what we can only assume was a solid dose of bad intentions. He demanded $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck ready to refuel the plane when they landed in Seattle. And here's the kicker. The airline and authorities were like, sure, that sounds totally reasonable. Spoiler alert. $200,000 was a lot of money back then. Enough to buy a small house or, a year's supply of avocado toast. Once the plane landed in Seattle, the passengers were released, the money and parachutes were delivered, and everyone thought, well, maybe this guy isn't so bad after all. But, like every great plot twist, things were about to get twistier. Cooper ordered the plane to take off again, this time heading towards Mexico City, flying low and slow, like a Sunday drive through the skies. And here's where D.B. Cooper pulled off his grand finale. Somewhere over the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, he opened the rear stairs and jumped into the night with the cash strapped to his chest. And just like that, he vanished, poof, into thin air. No trace, no body, no parachute. It's like he was never there, except for the hold, hijacking a plane and stealing a bunch of money part. Naturally, this sparked a nationwide manhunt, a media frenzy, and about 1,000 conspiracy theories, ranging from Cooper was an ex-military skydiver to he was a time traveler from the future. Because, the simplest explanation is never good enough when it comes to unsolved mysteries. Despite the FBI's best efforts, and by best, I mean they scoured the woods, interviewed every person who'd ever met a guy named Dan, and even dragged rivers, Cooper was never found. The case remains open to this day, which means D.B. Cooper is either the greatest criminal mastermind of our time, or he's chilling in a cabin somewhere in Canada, laughing at all of us. So, what happened to D.B. Cooper? Did he survive the jump? Did he use the cash to start a new life? Or is he just really good at playing hide and seek? The truth is, we may never know. But one thing's for sure, D.B. Cooper left behind a legacy that's part myth, part mystery, and entirely unforgettable. And if nothing else, he taught us one very important lesson. Always double-check the name on your plane ticket, just in case you end up on a flight with someone named Dan.